Imagine waking up one morning and for every decision you make, every step you take, every word you speak, there's an invisible hand guiding you not with kindness or reason, but with fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being left behind, fear that the world will punish you if you step outside the invisible boundaries that have been drawn without your consent. You might think you are free, that love, logic, and morality govern your choices. But what if all along, fear has been quietly controlling the levers of your mind, shaping your instincts and steering your behavior before you even realize it? Consider the panic that spreads during a sudden crisis, how crowds stampede, how people abandon rational thought, how decisions that seem perfectly sane in calm moments are overridden by raw, instinctual terror, or the way outrage spreads online, faster than reason or empathy, feeding itself in an endless cycle that makes logic feel irrelevant. Fear doesn't ask permission. It bypasses reflection. It moves through the mind like a silent virus, hijacking perception and action. This is not just a personal vulnerability. Fear has been, for millennia, the ultimate tool of manipulation. Kings, politicians, marketers, and media architects have all understood that fear travels faster than love, faster than loyalty, faster than trust. It is immediate, compelling, and mercilessly effective. While love can persuade slowly, and reason can argue with time, fear strikes first, shaping behavior before consciousness has a chance to intervene. What does it mean for us? Living in a world engineered to provoke, amplify, and exploit fear at every level. What choices are truly our own, and which have been quietly dictated by the most primal of human emotions? To answer this, we must first understand the invisible chains that bind us, and how fear became the silent ruler of human behavior. Fear is not a modern invention. Long before social media algorithms or mass advertising, fear was the quiet force that shaped civilizations. In medieval Europe, entire villages lived under the shadow of witch hunts, where the mere whisper of accusation could ignite terror and force people into submission. Accusations were rarely based on truth. They were tools to control behavior, to reinforce conformity, to maintain power over those who might think differently. The very threat of persecution was enough to bend society, ensuring obedience without a single sword drawn. Kings and rulers throughout history understood the same principle. Fear was easier to wield than love, simpler to sustain than loyalty. Threaten a population with famine, exile, or punishment, and obedience follows. Offer only promises of prosperity or goodwill, and humans are far slower to respond. Their trust earned only gradually, if at all. Fear acts quickly. It triggers the mind's ancient survival mechanisms. It bypasses reflection and debate, hijacking instinct to ensure compliance, even in revolutionary times. Fear remained the invisible lever. The guillotine in France, the secret police in totalitarian regimes, or the purges orchestrated by dictators, they all work not merely through violence, but through the pervasive knowledge of potential consequences. One never needed to be physically threatened to be controlled. The knowledge that punishment was possible was enough to guide behavior. Fear, in essence, became a language spoken silently in every interaction, every law, every command. This manipulation was not limited to the grandiose scale of kings or tyrants. Communities, religions, and social structures also relied on fear to maintain cohesion. Morality, tradition, and social norms were often enforced not by rational persuasion, but by the unspoken threat of ostracism, shame, or condemnation. Over time, fear became internalized, a self-policing mechanism where people ensured their own compliance, anticipating punishment even before it arrived. To understand the power of fear, one must recognize its subtlety. It does not always roar, it whispers, nudges, and shapes quietly, and yet its effects are unmistakable. Fear can motivate entire societies, redirect economies, and determine the rise and fall of empires. It is the shadow behind every command, the pulse behind every law, the invisible hand that guides human behavior far more efficiently than love ever could. Fear is not only powerful because of history, it is powerful because of biology. Our brains are wired to react to threats before we have a chance to think. The amygdala, that ancient cluster of neurons, lights up at the slightest hint of danger, sending signals faster than our conscious mind can process. While love, compassion, and reason require reflection, empathy, and deliberation, fear strikes first. It is instantaneous, primal. It's often irreversible in the moment. Consider how the brain responds to a startling sound in the night. Within milliseconds, your heart races, your muscles tense, and your mind scans for potential threats. Reason may follow seconds later, but by then, the decision has already been made. Freeze, flee, or fight. This is why fear is so often exploited in society. The moment a threat is perceived real or imagined, humans act instinctively, often overriding morality, logic, or trust. Fear is faster than love because it does not require time to cultivate. Love must be earned, nurtured, understood. Fear needs no time, it is immediate and commanding. Modern psychology calls this the negativity bias. It's the human tendency to give more weight to negative experiences than positive ones. Threats grab attention. Dangers demand action. Similarly, loss aversion explains why people fear losing what they have far more than they desire, gaining something equivalent. Combine these innate tendencies with social dynamics, and fear spreads like wildfire. A single alarming headline can trigger mass panic, while a positive message of hope often struggles to gain traction. Fear moves faster not just because it is biologically prioritized, but because it is emotionally contagious, amplified by social reinforcement and shared anxiety. Even in personal relationships, fear exerts its silent influence. Fear of rejection, criticism, or failure shapes our behavior in ways we rarely notice. We hesitate, conform, or withdraw because love or empathy failed, but because fear is swifter and louder. While the mind carefully measures the rewards of love or trust, fear bypasses calculation, seizing attention and dictating immediate action. To understand the dominance of fear over compassion, we must confront a difficult truth. Humans are designed to respond first to danger, not to kindness. In a world increasingly engineered to provoke instinctive responses through media, politics, and technology, fear becomes not just a survival mechanism, but a tool. And in understanding this mechanism, we begin to see why societies, not just individuals, are so easily manipulated by threats, uncertainty, and the whisper of danger in the modern world. Fear is no longer confined to whispers in villages or proclamations from kings. It has evolved, amplified by technology, media, and global connectivity, becoming a machine that operates at unprecedented speed. Social networks, 24-hour news cycles, and algorithm-driven content feed on our instinctual responses, prioritizing outrage, panic, and anxiety over calm, reasoned reflection. A single alarming post can ripple through millions of minds within minutes. Hijacking thought before empathy or understanding has a chance to intervene. Corporations and governments alike have learned to engineer fear with surgical precision. Advertising exploits the fear of inadequacy. A product is marketed not for desire, but for avoid embarrassment, failure, or social rejection. Political campaigns weaponize the fear of the other, stoking division, uncertainty, and mistrust. Knowing that fear motivates faster than promises of progress ever could. Algorithms amplify this effect, detecting emotional triggers and delivering content that feeds panic and outrage. Reinforcing a feedback loop where fear spreads faster than love, faster than reason, faster than reflection. Even global crises are filtered through the lens of fear. Pandemics, economic downturns, natural disasters, these events are inherently threatening. But the way information is presented can heighten panic, stoke mistrust, and influence behavior on a massive scale. Fear, in this context, is not accidental. It is curated, amplified, and deployed, often with remarkable efficiency. While messages of hope and solidarity require time to resonate, fear strikes immediately. Bypassing deliberation, and shaping collective action. Almost reflexively, this phenomenon also explains the rise of moral panic online. Outrage spreads faster than understanding because fear is contagious. We see it in viral campaigns, mass boycotts. In public shaming, the moment someone perceives a threat, whether personal, social, or ideological, the response is immediate and amplified by community reinforcement. Love, compassion, and empathy require cognitive effort, context, and patience. Fear requires none of these. It moves through networks, minds, societies with relentless speed. In the 21st century, fear is no longer just an emotion, it is an engine, a tool, and a weapon. It infiltrates every interaction, shapes public opinion, determines how billions behave, often without conscious awareness. To survive and to reclaim agency, we must first understand how fear is engineered, how it spreads, and how its velocity outpaces every other force we rely on to guide human behavior. Fear rarely waits for reason. It moves ahead of empathy, overtaking love in ways that are both subtle and profound. In the digital age, the dominance of fear is unmistakable. Take social media outrage as an example. A single provocative post can spark mass condemnation, as millions react instinctively, often without context or verification. People do not pause to empathize, to understand nuance, or to seek truth. Fear propels them forward. Faster than any appeal to compassion, consider the financial crisis of 2008. Panic spread through markets and households alike, fueled not just by economic reality, but by the fear of loss, amplified through news cycles and social commentary. Individuals sold assets, withdrew savings, and acted impulsively, often against long-term interests. Love of community, trust in institutions, or rational calculation were eclipsed by the immediacy of fear. Even when hope or guidance was available, it lagged behind the instinctive reactions that fear commanded. The psychology of cults offers another stark illustration. Leaders rarely rely solely on kindness to retain followers. Instead, fear of punishment, ostracism, or eternal consequences ensures obedience. Love, loyalty, or shared vision develop slowly and are fragile compared to the instantaneous force of fear. People comply not because they are convinced, but because they are afraid, and fear moves faster than conviction every time, even at an interpersonal level. Fear often dominates. A child obeys a parent's strict command, not out of understanding, but out of anxiety about punishment. An employee follows a manager's directive more out of concern for reprisal than admiration or respect. Across societies, fear shapes behavior before empathy has a chance to intervene. These examples reveal a fundamental truth. Fear is the ultimate accelerator of action. Love, compassion, and reason require time, reflection, and emotional investment. Fear requires nothing more than perception of threat. It hijacks attention, dictates priorities, and spreads through network, social, political, or digital at a velocity unmatched by positive emotions. In understanding these dynamics, we see why fear consistently outruns love, and why societies, organizations, and individuals can be driven more by terror than by trust, loyalty, or affection. Fear is more than a tool. It is a mirror reflecting the deepest contradictions of human nature. On one hand, it protects us, alerting us to danger and ensuring survival. On the other, it enslaves us, shaping decisions, morality, and societies in ways we rarely recognize. The moral paradox is stark. The very instinct designed to preserve life can also constrain freedom, dictate behavior, and undermine compassion. Throughout history, thinkers have wrestled with this tension. Plato warned that societies driven by fear would sacrifice virtue for security. Hobbes described life under fear as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, where humans submit not to justice, but to the anticipation of harm. Modern psychology confirms these insights. Fear bypasses reason, influencing action more rapidly than love, empathy, or ethical deliberation ever could. The ethical dilemma is unavoidable. If fear moves faster than love, if societies are guided by anticipation of punishment rather than hope, what does it mean to act morally? Are humans capable of true freedom when our choices are so easily hijacked by instinct? Does virtue exist in a vacuum? Or is it always competing against the velocity of fear? These questions are not theoretical. They are lived realities, shaping governments, communities, and relationships. And yet there is a deeper lesson. Fear reveals the fragility of the systems we take for granted: law, trust, morality, and social cohesion. It exposes the thin veneer of civilization, showing how quickly instinct can override reason. At the same time, it illuminates human potential. By understanding fear's mechanisms, its speed, its influence, we gain the opportunity to act consciously, to resist automatic compliance, and to choose reflection over reaction. In this paradox lies the ultimate challenge. Fear cannot be eliminated, but its power can be understood and mitigated. The moral test of humanity is not whether we feel fear, but whether we allow it to dictate our lives faster than love, compassion, and reason. To confront this paradox is to confront ourselves. If fear has shaped human behavior for millennia, then understanding it is the first step toward reclaiming agency. Awareness alone can be transformative. By recognizing the moments when fear dictates decisions, when it hijacks attention, amplifies doubt, or compels conformity, we begin to pause before reacting. This pause is a small but powerful act of rebellion, a way to disrupt the automatic dominance of instinct over reason. Mindfulness and reflection are essential tools. When we slow down, we allow empathy, compassion, and reason to compete with the reflexive pull of fear. Techniques as simple as observing our own thoughts, questioning the origin of our anxieties, or considering alternative perspectives can weaken fear's grip. It no longer becomes the silent commander of action. It becomes one voice among many, and we regain the choice of which to follow. Critical thinking extends this resistance beyond the personal sphere. In a world engineered to provoke fear, from viral headlines to manipulated social narratives, questioning sources, verifying information, and examining motives are acts of empowerment. Societies are shaped not only by fear, but by the speed at which it spreads. By slowing the spread, by refusing to amplify panic without reflection, we collectively reclaim the space for reason, dialogue, and understanding. Fear thrives on isolation. Connection and solidarity offer powerful counterweights. Communities built on trust, transparency, and shared purpose create environments where fear cannot dominate as easily. While fear exploits uncertainty and division, love, cooperation, and empathy are deliberate forces that require patience, but they endure. Choosing courage over compliance, curiosity over panic, and reflection over reaction allows individuals and societies to reclaim power that fear would otherwise steal. Ultimately, overcoming fear is not about eradicating it. It is about mastery. Fear will always exist, but humans have the unique capacity to recognize it, interrogate it, and redirect its influence. When we act with awareness, reason, and deliberate courage, fear is no longer the invisible ruler. Instead, it becomes a signal, a guide, a challenge to be met, rather than a force that dictates the course of our lives. The truth is unsettling. Fear controls faster than love, and it has been silently guiding human behavior for centuries. It shapes societies, drives economies, manipulates politics, and dictates personal choices, often without our awareness. While love, reason, and compassion require time, reflection, and trust, fear acts instantly, hijacking attention, bypassing deliberation, and compelling immediate action. It is the invisible ruler of human behavior, relentless, pervasive, and precise. And yet, knowing this truth is liberating. Awareness transforms the invisible chains into visible ones. Once we recognize the patterns, the triggers, and the velocity of fear, we gain the power to resist its dominance. Each pause, each conscious decision, each refusal to act reflexively is a reclaiming of agency. The same mechanisms that allow fear to control us can also be understood, mitigated, and mastered. The choice is ours. Will we continue to be swept along by the instinctive currents of fear, reacting before reason has a chance to speak? Or will we slow down, reflect, and act with deliberate courage? The answer is neither simple nor comfortable, but it is profoundly human. To confront fear, to understand its power, and to reclaim our decisions is to embrace the full responsibility of freedom. Fear will always exist. It cannot be eliminated, but it does not have to dictate our lives. In the end, the ultimate question is personal. Will we live as subjects of our instincts, or as conscious architects of our choices? The dark truth is undeniable, but so too is the potential for deliberate courage. In this tension between fear and agency lies the essence of what it means to be human.